back. I need to apologise. We are a day late. We're a day late. Sorry. Sometimes some stuff happens and you just have to miss a day. So it's okay. Here we are. Welcome back to the Give 'em Liam podcast. I'm Liam. And thank you to the Cover Podcast Network, the cover.com.au. Once again, they make all this happen. They pay our bills, I guess. I guess you could say. Also, I need to apologise because I've been spruiking Riverside this whole time. They haven't even put the tile up on the website yet. So that's going to happen at some point in the next couple of days. So I encourage you to at least click on it, go have a look. You know, there's some affiliate marketing stuff going on. So there's some money coming our way if we get that done. Before I get into speaking with my guest, just want to shout out Super W. Super W's back. One round in the books. Looks like the Fijiana are going to be the team to beat. But, you know, really want to just highlight how good a product it has become and how enjoyable it is. And I implore you, if you've got an opportunity to, get down to a game, buy a ticket. You know, even if you are there to see the men's team, just show up a couple hours earlier and watch the girls. I promise you won't be disappointed. I promise you'll enjoy it. I promise you'll have fun. So just do it. Just do yourself a favor and do it. And I guess that brings me to my next point. So it's not often I agree with something Michael Checker says, because I think, yeah, we have diverging values. We have a very different approach to the way we think about the game. You know, the way we approach coaching and all of that sort of thing. But there's two really young players playing Super Rugby at the moment, Rajan Pesitoa and Will Harris. Rajan Pesitoa, you know, if you've been hiding under a rock, he's playing fly half for the Force. He is a Perth local, but did a year in Canberra with the Brumbies before shifting back. And great footballer. He really is. He's got time on the ball. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He kicks well. He reads the game well. He defends well. You know, I can't fault his game at all. But what I do want to say is that we can't put pressure on this kid at 20 years old and call him the incumbent. You know, Tim Horan, as great a footballer as you were, you have a responsibility as someone in the media to look after this kid. And by pushing that agenda and saying, oh, he needs to be playing for the Wallabies, he needs to be in the camp, you're just dismissing the body of work that Quade Cooper's put together, that James O'Connor's put together, and that Noah Lalesio's put together. Like, has everyone just fucking forgotten that Noah Lalesio is 22 years old? He's 22. We haven't given him a chance to figure out the number 10 jersey. Like, I want it known too that Noah, he's only been playing fly half since 2018, right? And even in 2018, he made the shift halfway through the year, and I know that because I played with him. He was playing in the centres for the majority of the year, and then we had an injury at fly half, and he got shifted about midway through the year and then into the NRC season, and then, you know, became a fly half from there. So it's really unfair to be out here saying, you know, we've got to put him in the Wallaby squad. One, he's done nothing. I'm talking about Rajan Pesitoa. He's had 3 good football games. Maybe 2, right? We need to allow him to develop. We need to allow him to make mistakes, because if you heap that pressure on him and then he does have a poor game, guess what's going to happen? Everyone's going to turn on him quick smart. Look at what happened to Christian Lealifano at the start of his career, right? And I want the same thing noted about Will Harris. Yes, I really like his game. I think he could be a world-class number 8. But then we're just dismissing what Pete Samu's doing. We're dismissing what Harry Wilson is doing. Like, let's give these guys a chance. Let's let them make their mark, put a stamp on a career in Super Rugby before we just hand them a Wallabies jumper. It's the entire problem with our system. And on that note, we're feeding that narrative. We're feeding that thing because we're now saying that you only need to do 5 years of Super Rugby or 30 tests to be eligible to then go play overseas but still be eligible for the Brumbies. So, if we're putting guys in at 19, 20 years old, by the time they're actually ready, by the time they're at their peak or should be at the start of their peak, they're going to be playing in France because they're going to be earning more money. They're going to be playing in Japan because they're going to be earning more money. So I'm not going to rant about this too much, but it is really frustrating as someone, who's part of the system, but then is an onlooker, is still a fan, to hear all this, have all this pressure put on really, really young kids before they've even had a chance to play the game consistently for a whole season. 2 years ago, Rajan Pesitoa was playing fly half for his school team. So let's just chill out on the giving guys a Wallaby jumper and heaping that kind of pressure on them. Let's actually support what they're doing in Super Rugby. Let's give them praise where it's due, for sure. But let's not heap the pressure of a Wallabies jumper on the shoulders of a young guy. And let's also not dismiss the body of work that's been put together by the incumbents. I mean, everyone saw what Quade Cooper did last year. Everyone appreciates the body of work that James O'Connor's put together. And everyone can see, yes, Noah Lalesio's been up and down, but he has also got the potential to take over that 10 jersey. So let's just chill, all right? Let's just let the Super Rugby season happen and see what happens. That's all I'll say on that. The other concern I have, and I can really only speak to what's happening in Canberra, but I can obviously see what's going on the TV. Crowds are really poor. And I think we can only blame COVID so much for that. So anyone listening to this, even if you don't go to the game, can you please just buy a ticket? The memberships are great. Buy a membership if you can. But really, you're not going to sell to any rugby team in Australia. You're not going to be able to sell 40,000 memberships to the point where you don't need to sell tickets to a game. It's just, I just don't think our fan base is big enough. So we really rely on the revenue generated from ticket sales. And if we're not even breaking even at a home game, then, the money's going to dry up pretty quick, particularly given, broadcast revenue is lower than it's historically been. So just buy a ticket, please. The other thing I guess I want to touch on, just on the commentary, the broadcast and all of that. I think it's going to be the way rugby's played at the moment. It is going to be hard to attract new fans to the sport, just because you turn it on to the TV and you're sort of watching it and stuff happens and it is complicated. It is complex. It's a simple game that has become complex, and there are some laws that aren't always clear, that aren't always, it's not always easy for you as a fan, sitting with someone who's a non-fan, like, oh, what happened there? It's not always easy for you to decipher what. And I've been thinking about this a lot. Is there a way that we can utilize the broadcast team to educate. Now, hear me out a little bit. John Madden was legendary for doing this with the NFL. So he would, like everyone wants to see the line break and everyone wants to see the try, for example. And in the NFL, everyone would want to see the touchdown. Everyone wants to see the guy running in space. But what he would do is take it back and explain to people how that running back got free, or how that wide receiver got open, or what the quarterback was looking at, or why that rules official made that call, right? And so if we take that concept, and I'll also say that it's no coincidence that while he was commentating, the NFL became really popular. Like it's well documented that it was as a result of that way of commentating. And I'm not saying that everyone in the commentary box has to be that way inclined, but I am saying that perhaps you do have someone in there who is really good at articulating, certain aspects of the game to then, simplify and make it easy for the casual fan to understand. I don't know. Am I making sense there? I think some of the commentators we use are pretty good. I think Andrew Mertens is someone who provides a lot of value and often does provide some of that education and I guess in-game feedback. But there are some others in there who I think are just in there. To me, Justin Harrison shouldn't be in there. He's the president of the Rugby Union Players Association. So you can't tell me that's not a conflict of interest for him. Morgan Turanui's got a decent rugby brain, but this is a guy who spent an entire year undermining Tony McGann down at the Rebels when Morgan was an assistant coach. Well, like well documented. Everyone knows that happened. And so, my concern is that these guys in the commentary box it's about them. It's about them and their profile. They're not really, in my view, they're not really great advocates for the game, and they're not providing any of the commentary to attract new fans to the game. Thoughts? My producer's giggling. That's all I'll say on that. But I fear for what our game looks like if we can't fix some of these issues. And the reality is, rugby as a sport has disenfranchised its supporters. And they don't, but then they're also trying to attract new fans. So they're not necessarily looking after the diehards, because the diehards have all become disenfranchised, which is a problem. And it's not necessarily the sport's problem. It's often the problem with those fans. But then, to me, it's not enough just to put rugby on free to air. Like, we actually need to have a commentary team or a commentator who can break down the game in a really simple, easy to digest way to attract new fans. I'm getting told to move it along, so I won't. And I'd be interested to just hear from some of you guys on what you think about that. And it's not gonna fix everything, but maybe it's a step. It's a step in the right direction. The last thing I want to talk about before I get to my interview with Katey Johnston from 180 Degrees Marketing is this is the slight divergence from me from my usual subject matter. But those of you who have listened to some of my work previously, have listened to the Blame It on the Bogey podcast, know that I am a terrible but avid golfer. And the PGA Tour has this program called the Player Impact Program. So it's basically at the end of every year, they give players a bonus for the impact that they have across social media. So, in terms of engagement, in terms of the amount of followers they have, in terms of the amount they post, there's a whole bunch of things that go into this metric, and then players are given a bonus based on where they rank. From I think first is about $8 million, and then I think it's 10 people, and I think 10th is maybe $4 million, something like that. I'm not going to sit here and claim to be the expert on that, but what I do want to say is that in 2021, so last year, PGA Tours just kicked off for this year. Tiger Woods was the winner of the Player Impact Program. And you might, if you're a casual sort of fan of golf, or you have a passing interest, you might go, well, Liam, that's not that weird. Like, Tiger Woods is a big star. What I want to say is that he didn't play. He played in one golf tournament last year. Like, had a car accident, nearly lost his leg. And take all the time you need, Tiger. We need you back in the sport. We do. We need you back in the game, because I just think you're so compelling. You're an amazing athlete. You've now become a half-decent human being. But he literally put up one video of him swinging a golf club, and he played in a tournament with his son that didn't matter. And there's a stat that I'll tell you in a second from that. And won the Player Impact Program. So, like, can you call Tiger a player at that point? Personality Impact Program, maybe, for sure. But I guess the other really important thing, the one thing that's really interesting is I mentioned that he played in that tournament with his son. 9.3 million people watched that broadcast. Yeah, it's a lot of people. 9 million people watched the final round of the Masters. Now, the tournament that he played in is a nothing tournament. Masters is arguably one of the biggest golf tournaments in the world, most exclusive, most talked about. And just by having Tiger Woods play in this nothing tournament, they drew a bigger TV audience. So, keep getting them checks, Tiger. You earned your money. All right, that's enough. That's enough. You've listened to me long enough. In a second, I'm gonna hit this button. Katey's gonna come in, and we're gonna have a really, really interesting chat about her business. Her business, she 180 Degrees Marketing. She's someone I worked with a long time ago, but right at the start of my professional career, if you want to call it that. We've kept in touch. We've helped each other on a number of things, a number of projects, a number of connections. But one thing you'll realize in this discussion is how innovative she is, and how little credit she's got for innovating in that space. But always a quiet achiever, highly successful, but you wouldn't know it. So, yeah, here it is. All right. Katey Johnston, 180 Degrees Marketing. Thank you so much for doing this. I know we've known each other for a long time, but this is something I've wanted to do with you for a while. But before we do that, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Liam. As I said before, I'm a little nervous.
Yeah. Look, don't be. I know that they look intimidating, the mics and the cameras and stuff, but you'll forget they're there. Trust me.
Okay, good. It's very legitimate. I'm impressed.
Are you getting married soon, right?
Yes, in 8 days.
8 days. How's that all going?
Oh, it's going. That sounds terrible. I'm very excited.
Yeah. I've never been married. I haven't thought too much about it, because Kat and I kind of skipped that step and just had a baby. So, but I imagine it's a relatively stressful endeavor.
There's just a lot to do, and I'm very organised. So I was organised 12 months ago, and then no one wanted to talk to me about anything. up until 2 weeks ago, and all of a sudden it's my new full-time job. So if you need any help in the future, you know where to find me.
Man, and is most of that coming from guests versus?
Honestly, guests are the worst
Yeah.
because you literally spend so much time getting information correct and building a website and getting invites out on time, and you've got everyone. What time is it again? Where is it? What are we doing? Okay. Oh, no, I'm gluten-free. Don't forget. Yeah, so that's the worst.
They sound like my athletes, like some of the athletes I work with. So you have we have what's called an AMS, an athlete management system, and you put everything in there. So from, training times all the way through to so we do these wellness surveys that they're supposed to submit every morning. Then, everything from training times, media ops, everything is in there. And then the day of, it's always like, hey, where are we meeting again? What? Oh, I didn't know about this.
And it's not one conversation. You're having that same conversation with 50 people.
Which and it's just so hard. And it I guess the biggest reason I wanted to have you on here was to really talk about, when you first started 180 Degrees Marketing, and this happens a lot with people who innovate in a space. You ran what I would call a really lean agency. And I remember when we caught up and talked about it initially, I was like, man, she's so smart.
Wow.
But so Katey ran an agency, and for outward facing, you would assume, big office, huge payroll, all of the work was top quality, but really it was Katey and a bunch of freelancers
sitting at home by ourselves. I'm so glad the smoke and mirrors worked. That's unreal.
Yeah. And so I guess the thing is, everyone runs their agency this way now. But back in, 2016 when you started?
Yep.
Yeah. No one was doing it. And even for me, with a small media company, I was sitting there thinking, I've got to have staff writers, I've got to have graphic designers, I've got to have video producers, I've got to have, web developers all on the payroll. And then I had that conversation with you, and I was like, they can just do it from anywhere.
We don't even need to see these people.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, so we've got a podcast here, the Daily Dribble podcast. Shouts to the guys down in Tasmania. Never met them face to face, but have had tons of conversations with them via text and Zoom and whatever. But I've never met them in the flesh.
That's it. Like I had the first time I met one of the graphic designers I'm working with at the moment. She'd been working with me for 12 months, and I met her at our Christmas party for the first time. Which isn't, strange in these times, but yeah, back then it's, I'd get questioned all the time. Oh, do you have a degree? Was always a question. Yes, I do. I have a Bachelor of Public Relations. Thanks for asking. Tick that box.
Yeah.
Do you have an office? Well, so we mostly hot desk out of our clients. Our clients are really hands-on, so we need to, be present in their offices. So it's just having to think of excuses was really funny. And now, this morning, I was sitting out having a meeting on my front veranda with my dog running around, and the lady on the call was outside as well, and we're both laughing about what a nice day it is and how good we get to do this. 6 years ago, you couldn't do that. So
yeah, and as I said, I'd never worked in an environment where you didn't have access or you couldn't walk down a hallway and talk to the graphic designer or grab the account manager and be like, what the hell are you talking about? Or whatever, So yeah, I just remember thinking when you were talking to me about it, I was like, this is very innovative because you've effectively positioned yourself as the middleman. And there's a principle that I learnt really early on in my university degree, actually, at the University of Otago. I had this lecturer, his name was Simon Chu, and he used to be a hedge fund manager on Wall Street. And he looked at me one day and was like, oh, Liam, you're from Australia, so you know a bit about the gold rush. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I think one of my history teachers mentioned that to me one time. And then he looks at me and he's like, he looks at me and he's like, so who do you think got rich during the gold rush? And I was like, the miners? And he's like, no, there's the guy selling the shovel. That's the guy who got rich. And I was like, oh, okay. So, identifying a need and providing that service, which in our industry, media and marketing has traditionally been done by newspapers, by huge agencies, Gray's advertising, all of that, to a point where it was so old school. And then here comes Katey Johnston with her marketing agency, and it's just like, no, I can just do this myself.
Well, the thing too, traditional agencies sort of set up, I think, as you said, personally, without being rude, I think is old school. I think having big overheads that eat into your profit margins is not necessarily an effective way to work. From two angles. So clients, most of the time the clients don't really care where you are. As long as you're there for them on the phone, on an email, or in their office, I didn't find it necessary to have that physical presence and drain the bank account in the process. Particularly when you're starting out, is not the best thing to go and do, is overcapitalise on those things that you don't need. But from a staff and team perspective, they love it. I still have some of my team members, bless them, so politely ring me up. Katey, I'm going to be offline for half an hour tomorrow, to get my booster shot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known. But thank you, because they've got that level of accountability, because you give, structure leads to freedom. So we obviously make sure that we have structure in our days to support that freedom. So when people are able to sort of come and go, I really don't believe in that you need to be seen to know that you're doing something, which goes back to how we treat our clients, in the fact that we provide a service through technology that is results-based. So if we don't have results, transparency, flexibility and structure with those relationships, well, we wouldn't have any clients.
Yep.
So then having that same approach to our team internally, I just think has the right balance on both sides.
Yeah, and I think you look at a big agency or a big organisation, doesn't even have to be an agency, and you talked about, being adaptable and being, providing a level of freedom. It's really hard to, in a big agency or in a big environment, to turn the ship around. It's like being on a tanker. It takes 4 hours to turn the ship around. And it's usually because if a client moves the goalpost or they change their mind about something, you don't have the flexibility with the agency, with the creatives, to then go and pivot really quickly.
100%. And, even just time lost, in days, our projects don't blow out because we can turn them around so quickly, and not that they, necessarily big projects. It's a lot of smaller contracts that we have. But having the freedom to just sort of, get things turned around really quickly. I don't waste half an hour in the coffee room. No offense to Sue down the hallway who wants to have a chat about the weekend. I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't need to worry about parking. And the times I do go out to meetings, and I obviously still go and see my clients, the ones that I know face to face. The rest of the clients, I wouldn't know them if I fell over them in the street because we've literally never met.
Yeah.
And they're all over the country.
Yeah.
So it's, when you do go out, you have that, I just feel really proud. I get to wear my nice shirt and my nice shoes, and I only have to wear my heels for an hour and a half instead of 8 hours traipsing around in the rain somewhere. So there's lots of little benefits.
Well, and I think too, and I don't know if you thought about this when you first started, but when you work somewhere, when you're someone's employee and you're on a salary, there's less accountability, because whether you turn your work around or not, that paycheck still comes. And if you start underperforming, you'll lose your job, whatever. But when you work exclusively with freelancers, or who are effectively running their own businesses themselves, they're accountable for their own time, and therefore accountable to you. And as you say, that allows you to turn things around quickly, but it's also providing a really high level of care and high level of attention to detail and all of that, because if they don't deliver that job, or if it's crap, they don't get paid.
Absolutely. And that's another thing, with team over the years, like we run a very lean employed like team on the payroll, and the rest are contractors, and it's always been that way. Me on the payroll, that's me pretty much, and two others. That's it.
Yeah.
And the rest are contractors. And as you said, I absolutely love working with contractors because for a few reasons, they're specialty in their field and they know how to stay in their lane. And they run a really good job. But the accountability piece is absolutely key because, often, there might be deadlines, there might be, whatever it is, whatever the pressure is coming from the client, and a contractor has a very high, I suppose, accountability, a sense of accountability that, and I'm not, pardon my French, but I'm not shit canning employees either. That's not everyone. But I just think, again, being a contractor, it goes back to the fact, you've got the freedom. You've got your own structure, which leads to your own freedom that, allows you to have a lifestyle. And I've since had, over the last 12 months, friends sort of reach out and be like, oh, do you guys have anything going at the moment? Like, can we work together? And I've pointed them all in the direction of, yes, you can sell the same technology we do, put up a brand name, slap yourself together a website and get on the phone and start dialing.
Well, because you've been down that route too, where you took on a bunch of staff and a business partner, right?
Yes, I did. And so I 100% did things backwards, on their head, upside down, out the front door in the rain. It was... I just couldn't have done it more incorrectly because I had that perception. Yeah. I had that perception of, I'd worked in agency before, I'd worked in big business before, and then going to do it yourself, you think, oh, I need all the stuff. It's kind of like when you go, you buy a new house and you're like, I need to fill it with furniture.
Yeah.
It just won't work unless I've got everything in here.
Yeah.
In reality, you need a bed. You probably need some running water. You need some electricity and maybe something to eat. But you don't need all the bells and whistles straight away. And that was the mistake I made, bolting out of the gate going, righto, I need this, this, this. I had too many employees. I had no profit. Yeah. I was hot desking in my lovely business partner at the time's office, which was great, but we weren't getting anywhere. And we were spinning our wheels for too long. Until I had some pretty hard conversations with my accountant who said, if you keep going down this road, you should go and get a real job because that will pan out better for you. So that went down like a lead balloon. And I just said, that's just not an option. I can't be managed. That's not a good thing. It's just how it is. So what do I need to do to make this work? So get yourself a good accountant if you're going down this road. Here's my absolute first bit of advice. So we cleaned all that up, but it took me, 2 years to get out of the trouble I'd gotten myself into as a result of having the perception that you need to be seen to be working, you need to be big and you need to have all this big facade and whatever. And maybe that goes against what, it was smoke and mirrors. It was like, this is what we need to show who we are and what we're doing to impress people and be competitive. Yeah.
And I think COVID's forced everyone's hand in that regard, but it just makes sense, right? Like if you produce good work and you can work from anywhere, why do you need to have an office in Sydney and an office in Brisbane and then another one in Singapore and one in Hong Kong and one in Los Angeles? Like, just have people who work there on the ground.
They're like satellite offices. Yeah. It's like we have a presence in Melbourne or we have a presence in the Gold Coast. And I'm all for that. I think that's amazing. And then that's how people can scale. But again, that perception is there. I actually had a call with one of our suppliers in Canada last week, and he was saying to me, I said, oh, you're in the office. Like, are you guys not working from home? And he said, no, we have to have an office because the culture in Canada and across the States is that big businesses and certain businesses won't deal with you unless they know you have a physical location. So they literally, and he's like, we're only here 2 days a week, sometimes one, sometimes we pop in for a meeting. So it's spending all this money on rent just to have, literally to have
the presence,
have an address and somewhere to maybe, I think they had a boardroom and whatever, but probably some nice tea and coffee, I don't know. But the rest of the time.
Maybe Sue's there.
Yeah, maybe Sue's there in the coffee room just wasting everyone's time all day long. I don't know. But yeah, so I just thought, wow, that sucks. And then I was going to make a comment about Australians, bless us all, because I feel like we're pretty chilled and laid back anyway. But yeah, fellas, it's not like that here. We're fine.
Yeah.
I'm in the front yard tanning half the day, so I'm okay with it.
But I think too, like our generation, millennials, for all the flack that we have copped and continue to cop, I think this is always what we've wanted, is a level of freedom. And rather than, job satisfaction is important, but it's not necessarily being tied to the work, but tied to the purpose.
Absolutely. And just being able to get up in the morning and go, oh, it's a nice day, I might go for a swim.
Yeah.
Or I want to walk the dog at lunchtime, I've had enough, I just need a reset. It's not an issue, and I love working with other people that feel the same way. And as you said, I think this has been underlying for a very long time, and we've always wanted it, but COVID has literally, brought it all to
Everyone
a head.
just had to pivot.
We just had to do it.
Yeah.
So, no, absolutely. And I think I was reading an article actually the other day, and they were talking about generation resignation. I mean, that's us, apparently.
Yeah.
I'm also okay with that though.
Yeah.
Because people are quitting their jobs. They're going, why? If I can work from anywhere, well, why can't I go and do my own thing?
Yeah.
Why can't I make my own money and, go on holidays whenever I want? Why can't I go and fly to Barcelona and live there for 3 months and work off my laptop? Well, you can.
Yeah. Particularly, like, as you say, particularly if you're a creative, if you're a designer, even a lot of content creation, video editing, that sort of thing, that can all be done remotely. Yes, you have to do the shoot on site, but if you're organised enough and you want to live in Barcelona, you can hire a local crew to do that.
Absolutely. There was one point in our business actually where I had our designer, she was actually in Barcelona. That was a true story. She was in Barcelona. I had our lovely content writer in the UK. I had another team member in Sydney, and the rest of us were in Canberra. But our content writer in the UK was dealing with one of our major long-term clients. She hadn't met them for 2 years. They weren't quite aware. They just thought they didn't know where she was. It didn't matter.
Yep.
And then coincidentally, when she moved back to Australia during COVID, she ended up renting an apartment in the exact same building that their head office was. So she went from being on the opposite side of the globe to being one floor above them, which was strange. But, that's an example. It really made no difference. The only thing is obviously a bit of a challenge with time zones, but you plan your days around it, you set expectations and manage your client expectations accordingly, and it's usually fine. Yeah,
well, as you say, you provide structure to allow for freedom. So if you have someone who's like, you know what, and this has actually happened to me, a writer that I work with, he said to me, Liam, like, deadlines in the afternoon don't work for me. I'm like, okay. I was like, why? And he's like, well, I usually write between like 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. That's kind of my zone. I'm like, do you go to sleep before that? He's like, nah.
Just whatever you do not call me in the afternoon.
Yeah, so he just kind of gets, I don't know, he gets locked in, in the early hours of the morning. You sort of, I guess, for him towards the end of his day, and then goes to bed. So, I would wake up and I would have all of his submissions for the week or for 2 weeks
ready to go.
Done in one hit.
That's such a good point. That is another thing about this. So particularly in creative marketing industries, this is so true. Creativity, you don't turn it on and off. You don't get up in the morning and turn on your on switch and go, right, I'm creative from 9 till 5 today and I'm going to do that 5 days a week until I die.
Yeah.
I love the fact that designers will be like, I can't work on this right now. And then you get an email at 1 a.m. and you're like, they were buzzing then. That's awesome. Yeah. Like, that's when you get better quality work. They're happy, you're happy, client's happy. It's not like that every time, but, in an ideal world. But yes, that's another benefit.
Yeah, and I guess going back to the traditional style of workplace, as you said, it's not something you can turn on and off. You're either creative or you're not, and it's okay to be either way. But I imagine for someone particularly, and I consider designers artists. So for an artist to be told, okay, between 9 and 10 you have to work on this, and between 10 and 11 you have to work on this, and to have a day structured that way, I imagine that would be torture for them.
I'm pretty sure that's why my designer went to Barcelona. Get me out of the four walls. Let me sit on a beach and sip a pina colada while I'm coming up with something. Well, that's it too. And the traditional agency structure as well is billing, most things are billed on an hourly rate.
It's just how they have to do it.
That's how they have to do it. That's fine. Or project based, however it's billed. But yes, being able to at least, you can still do that. And a designer that has that freedom and flexibility is going to be accountable. A good one will be accountable with their time and be transparent in how long that job took them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's interesting because I've worked predominantly in sport in recent times, but we started out in Canberra together, and I saw how that ran in terms of we were attached to a marketing agency, the Mark agency, so we had access to creatives all the time, but we also never had access to creatives because they were always doing billable work, and so that was really challenging. And then shifted across to work at a law firm where everything is billed in 15-minute increments. You make a phone call, you log that phone call, you hang up the phone, and you unlog it. Like it's like clockwork because everything works on billable time. And so the challenge is if you have overhead, staff, rent, and then you're going out and quoting work, it's really hard for you to turn a profit on that because
you're maxed out.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. Your dad gave me actually some of the best advice. Very, very, actually 2 bits of advice. One of them was because I was asking him about business partnership and what do I do and what documents do we need, la, la, la. And he said, do the divorce first. So go through exit strategies and figure all that out. La, 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 out of the way. And the second thing he said to me was, he said, so how are you planning to scale this, Katey? And I said, well, I'll just get lots of clients and make lots of money, and then that's what
the
we
dream,
do.
Right?
That's the dream. Yeah. I'm going to kill myself in the process and burn out, but that's what we're going to do. And he said, well, you just need to break it down. He goes, it's quite simple. He said, say there's 40 hours in your working week. Well, that's your 40 hours. You've only got one option there. You either duplicate yourself, and that's when you start to grow your team, or you start charging more on a billable hour. He goes, but you're only going to get to a certain point within your time realm. So off the back of what you just noted. Yeah. So then that triggered the thought of, all right, well, scalability, how do we do this? And then, you watch tech companies blowing up. You go, how do I be a tech company? What's my idea?
Yeah.
What am I going to invent? And then...
Damn, why didn't I think of Afterpay?
Yeah. I heard they were from Canberra too. Well, that's it. It's like, what's that next idea?
Yeah.
And then I suppose that's been the evolution of our business, stepping through that and working it out. How do we scale, but reduce my hours, not increase them? And I guess that's where technology comes into it, and subscription models and whatnot to have the recurring revenue, so you're not constantly chasing that next project. But, I'm still chasing. I've got 2 hours every day blocked out, or no, every day, Monday to Friday, sometimes Tuesday to Thursday, depending on the week, dedicated to my daily prospecting. So, and if I need to make that fun by going and sitting in the front yard, as I said, in the sun, making calls, noting it in my HubSpot, then that's what I'll do.
That definitely would have been frowned upon in the Outer Canberra offices. I can tell you right now.
Can you imagine me sitting out there just sunning myself for half a day?
But it's interesting, like my dad, he really battled because at his core, he is an entrepreneur, like he's creative, and he, even at his age, he's 65 now, 66, turning 60. Sorry, he just turned 67. He's still at the forefront of technology. Like he reads tech articles, he understands startup culture and startups, but he did a law degree because that was just what you did. And so he always battled in that industry because it's so backwards. It's really, everything is brick and mortar. You need to have offices, you need to have staff. There's a hierarchy. You've got partners, associates, senior associates, graduate lawyers, all of that. And so he spent a lot of time internally trying to reconcile that and tried to innovate in that industry, but he just couldn't because of the people he worked with predominantly. And then in the end, he was spending so much time, I guess, cultivating and working with the junior lawyers to get them up to scratch, because most of them had come through law school and never worked a day in their life, never worked in an office, never had a hospitality job, anything. So he spent so much time with these really intelligent people, basically trying to turn them into salespeople. Because at the end of the day, you want to have a relationship with your lawyer. You don't want it to feel transactional. You want to go in, you want to be able to talk to them in the same way that you do with an agency, in the same way you do when you go and you buy your groceries. You have a little chat with whoever's behind the counter. So in the end, it weighed him down, because he had all of this pressure to bring in work and all of this pressure to develop the younger staff members. So he ended up just quitting.
Well, and that's it. Like, and I see this. So I've noticed this as a trend too. And no disrespect, but our parents' generation, you know, my dad worked at the Commonwealth Bank for 30 years, you know, and at the end he was made redundant and see you later.
Yeah.
Career change into real estate. And even now he looks back and goes, oh, I should have done this sooner. Like this is me. Like, this is what I want to do. But it's funny, there's sort of this generation in between us and our parents' age, which is kind of my cousin's demographic, that kind of throw shit on us, being, oh, you guys don't stick in a job for more than 2 years. That's terrible. You know, I've been a nurse for 20 years, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, well, that's your choice and this is my choice. And I don't want to spend 30 years doing the same thing ever. Except for being married. I've got to do that.
Yeah, you probably want to stick that one out.
I'll stick that one out. We'll find out after next Saturday. I'll let you know.
But you're right. And you know, back to my dad, 67 years old, he now works for Engineers Australia, which is a member-run organisation, as their in-house counsel and company secretary, which he loves. He's so happy because he feels like he's providing a really valuable service to engineers around the world, or Australian registered engineers around the world. But he doesn't have the stress of, how am I going to make payroll this month? How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to pay my mortgage? All that, because the pay comes in. But having said that, that doesn't suit me.
Yeah.
Like the idea of that is hard for me. You know, doing that for a long time is hard for me to reconcile.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's also, he's probably at, you know, that stage in his life and career where paying it forward is the most important thing. One of our major clients that I alluded to previously, they're a pharmacy group, and their values are so far ahead of, you know, a lot of thinking, which is why I gel with them so well. You know, they have a real mentality of, you know, they expand the group, they empower the young up-and-comers to, you know, become managing partners and then have their teams. And then, you know, a lot of the businesses are female-led as well. So, you know, ladies get to a certain age, that they need to start having babies. But then being in a company that allows that and gives them that freedom, and it makes them want to come back to work. And the rest of the team step up in the meantime. But, yeah, having the ability to, you know, having these long careers, and they get to 65 and go, oh, I'm probably still too young to totally retire.
Yeah.
I want to do something.
My dad retired for 6 weeks. And then he was like, Liam, I don't even like golf. I was like, well, get a job, man. Like me telling him to get a job.
Yeah. You're 65, work it out.
But is that something you spent some time on, you know, values, company values, but also personal values, and I guess how that translates into what you do?
Absolutely. So I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time under the wings of Ben Folkes at Ray White Canberra.
Yeah.
Ben and his brother Sam Folkes, they invested and still invest a significant amount of time and energy into their teams. They're another great example of a modern, forward-thinking workplace that, you know, they're not greedy. They don't want to hang on to it all. They empower their teams. They bring directors in that are young and up and coming.
Yeah.
Part of the time that I had with them, which was extremely valuable, values was the first. They had a business coach at the time. Values was one of the first things that they went through.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to end up being a part of their leadership team. So with my marketing hat on from that, you know, it's kind of vertical in the business.
Yeah.
And in the beginning I was like, why are they spending so much time on value? Like, who cares? Like, success. What? Yeah, well, we all want that.
Yeah,
like, like
what does it mean?
What does it mean?
Yeah.
Like, why are we doing this? Anyway, as years went on and time went on, every decision in the business came back to the values. So, okay, we need to make a business decision around this. What does this tick our values? And if it doesn't, we don't do it. And then empowering your team to believe and be encouraged and motivated by the values. It just gets everybody on the same page. It's like a friendship, you know, like if you've got conflicting values in a friendship, you're probably not going to be mates. You know, if I highly value being nice and you're horrible, well, it's probably going to be the end of that. So, and it's the same in business. So then I applied a lot of what I learned through the business coach and through Ray White to my own business to, and put that onto my team and say, what are our values? Like, what are we going to do? And it comes down to writing a mission statement, writing your vision, having a one-liner on, the who, what, where, why, when, type things. So, values is absolutely pertinent in any business relationship, I think.
Yeah, well, and I think, you mentioned the decision-making. Whenever you have a difficult decision to make, if you have a really long, established, strong set of values, it makes making that decision clear.
Absolutely.
Because you can go, well, these are the 3 or 4 things that we value, and this event or this thing that we're about to embark on actually doesn't meet 2 of them. So let's push that to the side. Let's invest our time and energy somewhere else. And if it does, that's obviously great. It's a tick box. But I think it is something that a lot of businesses and a lot of workplaces, organizations, sports teams, they do as a tokenistic thing, or they don't do it at all. Because I think the hardest part, once you have your values and they can be words or they can be, part of your mission statement, is the hardest part then is holding yourself and your staff or the people you work with or the businesses you work with to that set of values.
Absolutely. And we went as far as putting our values on any contractual arrangement. So whether that was an employee agreement or whether that was a contractor relationship, I would have on there, these are our values. Read this, sign this. Did you read everything? Did you have any questions? Because then you're setting the path clear at the very beginning. Going, and then if something happens, you've always got that as a very basic baseline to fall back on. So one of our values is accountability. So and the team know that, and all of our inward facing values are the exact same values that we have for our clients.
For your clients, yeah.
That's right. And it goes back to that structure, freedom, like we work internally, how we work with our clients. So we walk the walk, I think, I hope. I don't know. I'm not my client. I have to ask them. No, I don't want to.
I'm sure they're pretty happy. But, and I often reflect back on, where my corporate career started, and that was with Out in Canberra. They're getting lots of shouts today. And we got to work with some really amazing people, but often just because of the hierarchy, it was really hard to get things done and get things done quickly because we were constantly waiting for approvals. And I don't think that was intentional. I just think that was
not at all. No,
that was just the way that it was structured. But can you remember us ever having a value statement or anything like that?
No.
Yeah.
I didn't even really know if I should have personal values until I started training with Ray White, and I was like, I should probably do this for myself as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I felt at times it was hard to take the lead on anything, and it was hard to grow because of that. We were constantly
just hamstrung. And I think too, and that at the time was a new and evolving business, far ahead of its time at the time.
Yeah.
I look back on that and think that,
Well, I mean, they were selling the value of the internet.
100%. We were at a point where we go to meeting. Oh, a website.
Yeah.
Do you need one of that?
Yeah,
What's
what
that?
do you need that for?
20 grand for a website. Pay up.
That's just the start.
That's
not even the ongoing fees that we're signing you up for.
Then we got to host it. Host it? What is that?
You want email? Yeah, well, you need that.
A logo? Oh, forget it. Don't bother. Just go and get a real job.
But you're right. Like it was a really, and I think it was hard at that time. And we're not talking that long ago. We're talking like
10 years ago.
Yeah, 2011, 2012, somewhere there. We were still trying to sell people on the idea that, it's not enough to just put something in the yellow pages or the white pages. Like you need, even social media. So that was really at its infancy. Instagram had just come onto the scene. And I remember us having conversations about how we could use it as a business tool. And now, like, I don't for this business, I don't use Facebook at all.
Yeah.
It is there, it exists, and we post links and stuff on it, but Instagram is the key.
And it's gone full circle, like, and I'm often having conversations with clients about, having a variety in your digital marketing mix. Have a bit of this, have a bit of that. If you've got the budget, do all of it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing to me too, and the evolution of the internet and traditional, a lot of businesses are still very, very heavy in the traditional media marketing advertising space, which there is absolutely a spot for. But what I'm trying to work on at the moment is bringing that and our technology together.
Yep.
So it's like the amount of times I've seen a bus ad go past and then I've gone, hey Siri, when's Oktoberfest?
Yep.
And then whatever was on the bus, it was maybe the German, I don't know who it was, like wherever that event was. And you cannot find it in Google, or you're typing it and you can't. Or not that I type and drive, but, it's some
Hope there's no
time.
police listening.
Yeah, hopefully there's no police listening. And then it not being there, and it's kind of like, but you're spending all this money over here and you're not touching on it over here. Like I don't know. But it's interesting watching the evolution of it.
Well, and I know that's an area you're really pushing at the moment is the voice optimization.
Yep.
So we all know about SEO, search engine optimization, but a big part of that now is voice. Because I imagine tons of people listening to this, they'll be listening to it on their phone, because I know that from the analytics that I get. But I imagine tons of people who are listening to this aren't typing things into Google anymore or their Safari search engine. They're, hey Siri, or whatever the Android one is.
Cortana.
Sorry, Cortana.
I think that's right. I don't know.
Yeah.
I should know that. Well, that's it. I was with we it's such a evolving space too. Voice search it's a change in behaviour. It's a change in the way the world searches. But I was with it's the best because it's kind of the easiest pitch you could do, because you sit in someone's business. I literally sat in a pub the other day with the owners and the marketing guy.
Yeah.
And they were like, sorry, it's going over my head. What is it? I'm like, so when people are talking to their devices and typing in their devices, we're going to make you come up. And you're going to come up in the top 4, on Google, whatever. La, 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 pitch, pitch, pitch. Anyway, I don't think they were listening to my presentation at all. I had my laptop here. I was scrolling through my cool slides that I think are hilarious.
Yeah.
And then they go, hang on, let's just try this. So they picked up their device, started talking, best pub in Canberra, whatever.
Yep.
About 3 or 4 of their competitors came up and they were like, what? And I was like, just sitting there and say a word. Yeah. And
you should just walk in there and do that every time.
Well, the problem is Siri is so unreliable, and it's because the world is not optimized. That's why she can't find what she's looking for.
Yeah.
So our job is to go and get businesses and bring them up so everyone has a better experience. But you're sitting in the business, you expect that Siri has put 2 and 2 together and gone, oh, I'm here geographically, and you've said a keyword so that we should appear. But even sitting in the venue and they weren't coming up. So anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. But voice search.
Yeah, but it's an important next step.
Yes.
In AI is becoming another thing. We actually use AI sometimes with some of the writing that we do, and people have said, "Oh, that's cheating, Liam." I'm like, well, it's not really, because we use it to fact check. So someone will write an article, and they'll read it, and I'll be like, "Is that actually is that real? Like that thing you're referencing, is that real?" And often, because of what we do, some of what we write about is obscure, so it is hard to find links or credible links. So we use AI to it writes, but then it fact checks for us. So it makes sure that those things that we're referencing with our articles are actually accurate, because it can index the internet in a
So it's a technology. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, in a much quicker way than if I, paid someone in India to go, I need you to research this specific thing that I'm referencing. This bit of AI can just index the internet for us effectively.
And the thing too, like, because it's all so accessible to us, and we are all, wanting to be freelancers, and we want to go all over the world and do all these things, and we've got the ability to post content, making sure that it's correct is another part of that. So that's unreal.
And I guess the challenge in a media business, and where I'm encouraging our writers and our podcasters to, I don't want to filter them, because we're not attached to anyone, right? Like, at the end of the day, if someone's going to get sued, it's going to be me. So
accountability.
Yeah. So, but it is an important lesson, because for most of the people that we work with, they're younger content producers. So it is an important lesson for them to learn. Okay, like, I watched a TV show and they said this, and I'm going to reference that, but then being able to go and find what that is and whether it's correct. I think that's a key skill, but AI has allowed us to do that in a much more efficient way.
I probably need that on my just day-to-day emails.
Write this email for me. He can do that.
With this tone.
Yeah.
Make it clear.
Yeah.
I've only got Grammarly. Oh, we shouldn't say only. Grammarly is a life changer.
Yeah.
I didn't realise how poorly my spelling abilities were.
There, and there.
Yeah. where I was going to say where, and where. Yeah. Whoa. There we go. Case in point.
Yeah. But, and it's an interesting area too. Writing is becoming a lost art form in a way, particularly long form articles. Most of the stuff that you see now is 500 words, and it's like, this happened, this happened, this happened, and this happened. And there's a couple of links to other things. But, and I always think about this. When I went to university, never hand wrote anything, ever. Everything was typing away on my laptop. Then I'd go and sit an exam and I'd have to write for 4 hours.
I think I wrote so much that I have, like, I've got to have RSI, so I can't do a downward punch anymore. I'm 30. That's terrible. I was writing. No, it was probably the typing.
Yeah,
that's the issue.
But I guess the point is too, now schools, universities are a bit further behind, but schools have now shifted to laptops. So if you're coming through school now, you don't really need to learn that much grammar to get by and that much spelling to get by, because you've got spell check.
Exactly.
And a tool like Grammarly is phenomenal, because if you're willing to pay for the fancy version, it'll rearrange sentences. It'll
I've never done. I'm on the free one. I'm too stingy. I'm keeping my lean team. Remember?
So in writing we talk about passive voice, so misuse of passive voice, which it's basically whatever you're trying to talk about, you want that to be the active part of the sentence. So a lot of people write in passive voice because people tend to speak in passive voice. So a lot of people write the way that they speak. So things like that, where it can really structure your writing in a way that, that makes it, one, it makes it easier to read. Two, it makes it grammatically correct. And I assume if you're going to use it for emails and things like that, it'll save you a ton of time.
I've put it as part of our our induction.
Yeah.
Like, do you have these Chrome extensions? No? Go get them.
Yeah, do it.
Do it.
But I think that that's the world we live in. We're here talking about your agency and the way you've structured, in that you provide freedom and you don't have a physical office, and you're working with freelancers and a bunch of contractors who effectively work for themselves as well. The way of the world is going to be now efficiency. So how can we do things even more efficiently? So Grammarly is a good example. I assume that saves people hundreds of millions of hours across the world in proofreading.
Well, absolutely. And half of our pitch with our technology is that, we're in what we do, we're competing against traditional SEO solutions in a basic form.
Yep.
So my pitch is, well, you can go and spend thousands of dollars a month to a person or an agency sitting behind a computer constantly. It's like day trading. Like, they're in there like buying AdWords and figuring out keywords and doing research and all that. That's expensive because it's people power.
Yeah.
The shift to using technology to do the heavy lifting for you and your business so that you can move on and go and do something else. Let tech work around the clock for you so you don't have to is the whole shift in the way people are thinking. And not everyone, and I am very specifically talking about media marketing industries.
Yeah, but I think that industry has to be able to shift. It has to be able to adapt new technologies to what they're doing. AI. Like even social media. When I first got into the industry, people were like, look at me sideways, like why do I need that? Now that is, for most businesses, at the core of everything that they do.
Absolutely, it's just the baseline. It's like, it's rare that someone would say, "Oh, I don't have a Facebook page," or "I don't," it's just a must-have, or it's interesting the evolution of it. But yeah, you're right. Like being able to find efficiencies, and clients expect it as well. Why is this taking so long? We live in a modern world.
Yeah.
Are you putting the washing on?
Yeah.
Get back to your laptop and get this done. Yes, I was putting the washing on.
Stop tanning.
I'll never stop tanning.
But that's part of our culture. Our millennial Instagram generation culture is we want everything now because we've had access to it. And I assume the next generation, like my son, like I fear for what he's going to be like because he'll probably have AI friends. I don't know. I don't know what's coming. But he's 7 months old, and he's really been born like right where social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok now is mainstream. It's very everyone has it, everyone uses it. It's kind of at this tipping point. So then now you've got Mark Zuckerberg talking about this metaverse.
I was just about, do you know what went through my head then?
Yeah.
This is really random.
Yeah.
I thought invisible cars. I thought that's what we'll have. We'll have invisible cars.
Yeah.
But that would cause a lot of accidents. But then I thought even Tesla. If anyone wants a hilarious read Elon Musk's novel. It's about him, and wow. Read that. Hilarious.
Okay. Put that on the reading list.
Put that on the reading list.
Yeah.
Teslas, I'm just seeing the more, particularly in the inner south of Canberra. I was driving through Kingston the other day, and I was like, oh, there's Tesla, Tesla. And I thought, oh, they've got crypto.
Yeah,
they've got
true.
Crypto. I was like, I've got crypto. Why don't I have a Tesla?
But so that is a fascinating area to get into, and I can go in a whole, we could talk for another hour.
That's another
on that.
podcast.
But the idea that we no longer need banks to keep track of our transactions.
I think crypto is the most hilarious parallel to our generation being like, I do not want to be like my parents.
Yeah. Fuck banks, fuck money.
We're going to make
crypto.
our own. 100%. And I'm going to do it in Barcelona.
Yeah,
so that's that.
Yeah, and anonymously.
Yeah.
And you can I was having a discussion with a friend of mine the other day he's a day trader, traditional stocks. And to be fair to him, he's made me some money over the years. No insider. I don't want the ASIC coming knocking at my door. No insider trading stuff. He just would say, "Hey, have a look at a couple of these businesses and
don't tell anyone I told you that."
And and have a think about it. So ASIC, if you're listening, I'm not telling you shit, but
I'm moving all my money to crypto anyway.
And I'm moving to the Bahamas.
Yeah,
but so we were having a discussion about NFTs, and NFT, non-fungible token, it's an economics term that's been around for a long time, and it effectively just means something that can't be replicated. So, this pen over here, if you buy that from me, no one can replicate this exact pen. Technically, this is an NFT, but it's been coined as a phrase for digital assets, which most are now being built on crypto. You know, Ethereum seems to be the most popular one. So I was having an argument with him the other day about, because he's like, nah, it's stupid. Like, why would I want something I can't hold? I'm like, bro, you have this huge portfolio of businesses
that you can't
hold. You've never stepped foot inside a Starbucks, bro.
That triggered a thought. Actually, I've got a broker friend in Sydney, and we were at a bar and having a chat about he's actually brokered the deal for some of the tech that we sell.
Yeah,
and he hates the CEO. Hates him. He's like, I can't stand him. He's such a bastard. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, he's like, it's gonna fall over. I was like, do you know what the technology does? And he's like, no. And I was like, so you've broke. Like, how much does that happen? That would happen. And I thought, if you're going to invest in something, just know about it.
Yeah.
Just find its place in the world and think, oh, that might be useful to someone.
Yeah.
That might be worth something one day.
And so we were having this argument, and he said, you know, I can't bring myself to invest in something just because it's popular. I looked at him, and I was like, 10 of the last 15 stocks that you've told me to invest in, you told me to invest in them because lots of other people are. Is that not the same thing? And to his credit, he was like, yeah, well, I guess that is. I guess that is a widely used investment strategy where you invest in things you think other people are going to be that other people are going to think are a good investment, and then you pull your money out.
It's a herd mentality.
So take that, friend.
Take that. I hope you got your money, but take it out and put it in crypto. I reckon. Buy yourself a Tesla.
Yeah, get a Tesla. And you know, but I guess back to my point, like metaverse. So is my son's life is every interaction that he has and everything that he does, is that going to be on the internet somehow?
Do you know that it's so interesting? So I think like that too. I think my children are doomed for a number of reasons, you know, because they'll be mine. But, you know, like it's funny, those thoughts when you're thinking futuristically, you think anything is possible. But 30 years ago, I'm sure our parents thought that we'd be all grooving around on hovercrafts. And teleporting to Mexico. Like, but, you know, the world is, like, whilst there are digitally things that are moving quite quickly, the fundamentals, like you walk into a school, you know, and yes, they've got iPads and things like that, but the front office lady is probably 70 years old, writing on her pen and paper, doddering around, like, bless her. But, you know, there's still so much of the world that is still, you know, slow and traditional and a little bit behind. So, and I think that is the anchor to the forward-moving technology. But crypto, as an example, having this conversation with my PT this morning, he said, we were talking about it, and I just said, it's just too big to ignore. And
it's not. I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
I don't think it will go away.
Yeah, and
where it goes is unknown.
And I think the biggest challenge with it at the moment is the number of transactions it can handle all at once. So Ethereum,
again, efficiency.
Yeah, so Ethereum is the best, I believe, and the crypto bros don't come at me because
you and your NFTs.
I dabble, but and so sometimes with Ethereum transactions, they take a little while, and you know, people blow up about it. I'm like, it wasn't that long ago that if I sent you money, you wouldn't get it for 5 days, even on the app.
We didn't even have an app that long ago either. True, you had to log onto the website and remember your client ID and your password.
Yeah, so so if traditional banking methods of keeping track of transactions can go from, you know, you got to wait 5 to 7 days for that to appear in your account to instant in a matter of less than 10 years, I don't see why the same principles and the same jump can be made in crypto, purely because of all the people that want to work on it.
And I think that it is simply the evolution of money. And, you know, we started trading, you know, many, many years ago before my time, although I feel like I have been here before, like on planet Earth. So maybe I was part of a different century, not sure. You know, we traded in fruit and veggies or, you know, stock, you know, I'll give you 2 sheep for 1 cow. Like, and then, you know, silk, that's it. Materials, gold, you know, it's still around. Then paper money and coins and all the different currencies, and then the FPOS machine and the credit card and Virgin Money. How is that a thing? We can have a credit card attached to an airline.
Yeah, well,
that's decentralized.
Afterpay are giving people credit cards now on your phone.
Oh, yeah.
So you can go in store
yes.
with your Afterpay card and you pay nothing up front, or you pay, whatever it is, but you pay it off over 4 installments.
Well, that's it. I did try to set that up actually, and I got too scared. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to stick to the regular Afterpay because I enjoy the process of it. I like having the options. Sometimes I buy certain things with Zip Pay, and I buy certain things with a credit card, or I buy certain things with and I buy most things. 95% of my things with cash or actual money.
Yeah. Not crypto.
Not crypto. Oh, having said that.
Yeah.
So I've got one crypto. It's actually a crypto born out of the barter card network, which is a very interesting situation.
It's an interesting business. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm quite crypto rich actually on that particular thing. The problem is you're not rich if you can't do anything.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
So, but I can. I found a wholesaler and I can buy alcohol. So
perfect.
He's got himself a pretty good customer. Except now he started charging me some cash as well, so I have to do both. But I can't get rid of the crypto.
It reminds me of the guy who bought a pizza with like 17 bitcoins. When it first came out, he was like, "This is awesome," and then he's like, "Man, that will be worth millions of dollars."
Millions and millions and millions of dollars. What have I done?
I spoke to a guy recently. So I'm starting a new job, and for purposes, I can't actually talk about who the company is, but I met a person through that network, and he told me that a client of his didn't have any cash, but gave him 60 Bitcoin. And this was 15 years ago. So 2008 or 2009.
Gave him?
Yeah. So and it was worth, I think it was worth $300 a coin. So it was roughly the equivalent of what the job is. He said, I still have half of those. I sold half of them recently.
Oh my God.
This is a dude who's still working.
That's wild.
Yeah.
This is something that is another thing, and it's maybe tied to both like business and money and crypto and like other things. So I was 22 and I made a list of things to do before I was 30.
Yep.
And those things were all sorts of stuff, like, things that still haven't happened yet. I'm 30 now. I've got for 3 months. Anyway, doesn't matter. But, like putting things on a list and going, I want to do this and do that. And then that list sort of evolved into, that's too long. Like, I need to know what I'm doing in the next 12 months and set myself these audacious goals that were pretty unachievable in a short period of time. But it's like, it's that thing. It's the mentality around time. Like, 10 years ago it was nothing, but if he had that in a 10, and not that anyone knew about where crypto was going to go, maybe at that point, had a held on to that where he'd be now type thing, and not that he's lost, but whatever. But, the overestimating what you can do in 12 months and underestimating what you can achieve in 10 years.
Yeah.
And when I don't remember where I heard that. Maybe at a Ray White leadership meeting.
Yeah,
Probably actually.
Yeah.
I should quote whoever said that, because it's life-changing, like thinking about things differently in that regard as well. It's like, yes, as a generation we're in a rush to kind of get everywhere, and we want things instantly and we want things quick and we want everything yesterday and, whatever that mentality, but also maybe taking a leaf out of our parents' book and being like, taking a little longer to get to where you're going. 10 years is still a short time in the grand scheme of things.
Try telling that to a 20-year-old.
Yeah. Well, they were 10. They were in primary school.
Yeah. But so some of the best advice I ever got, and I'll ask you before you go the same, but some of the best advice I ever got was, if you want to do something and you want to do it well, write down what it is, and then all of the things that you need to do to get there. And as you're going, add things, because you'll inevitably have things come up as you're going. And then every day, tick something off that list. And it's still something I do today. And now I have these lists that are, most of them aren't actually written down, but they are, things that I want to do I want to have achieved in 12 months. And they're all, in my view, achievable if I tick off these 10 things. So some of the best advice I ever got, and if I could send a letter back to 18-year-old Liam, it would say, slow down, because you're going to kill yourself going so quick. And just come up with a plan. So write down the things that you want to achieve and then break them down into actionable, achievable things, and just everyday work at checking one of those things off, because that will make your life a lot easier.
Absolutely. I think, actually, no, wait, ask me the question first.
No, so I was going to say, before we go, what is, you've had success in a relatively short period of time, 7 years. So what is some of the best advice you've been given, and then what is the biggest lesson that you've learned that you would pass on to someone who was, it doesn't necessarily need to be a marketing agency, but someone who was about to endeavor and start going out on their own, stepping away from a secure life of a weekly paycheck into this world where you got to hustle, you got to chase clients and hold people accountable, hold yourself accountable.
So the best advice that I think I've been given is definitely around goal setting and having structure in your week, similar to what you said. So, a lot of people don't know, you can't achieve a goal if you don't know what it is. And I still struggle with that. I still try and write things down and go, what is my goal? Is it a dollar figure? Is it a level of financial freedom? Is it a level of personal freedom? What is that? And sometimes it is a few goals. So, that being the step, Katey, that is your step one, and then work backwards from there, like you said.
Yeah.
Build structure into your days, because then, and the amount of times I did it to my business coach. So Sam Folks ended up being my business coach last year, and he's now gone out and he's a full-on fiery. So now I'm totally lost again. No, I'm kidding. And I would say to him, he helped me put all the structure in my days, and we had a spreadsheet and we've got all that, and I'm using systems and processes that he's given me ongoing. But there were times where I'd go, oh, look, I think I'm going to take the 2-hour prospecting session out of my days. I think I'll just do it. I'll just know I have to do it. And he's like, have you not listened to anything I've said? He goes, you've got it every day, and you can hang up, and you might go out for the afternoon for 3 hours. You might go on a walk, you might go to the gym.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You might go do something else. And the freedom that you get from that going, I've done what I was supposed to do today, and it didn't take me all day flailing around, making a call here, making a call there, trying to catch up on some admin on the way through. So, the goal setting and the structure leading the freedom.
Yep.
To answer your question about advice that I would give maybe to my 18-year-old self, I was 24 when I started the business. So, what that piece of advice would be is, and I don't know if I should say this or not because I'm not a parent, but they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I think it takes a village to raise a business. And the biggest lessons that I learnt were based around having the wrong people in the wrong seats around me. And most of that I created myself. I had a choice to engage with who I engaged with at the time, and if Ben Folks ever listens to this, I'll be so happy. But Ben,
I'll send it to him.
Yeah. We'll put it on LinkedIn and tag him. He's passionate about having the right people on the bus. So for me, I just had, and no disrespect to the people, because it was just not the right fit, but making sure that you've got that village around you and everyone is in their own lane, and then you're leaning on people for their specialty item and making sure that they are actually good at what they say they are. Not just, help you out with that and whatever. No, professionals in the right seats, and you don't need to be spending a lot of money on that. Pete, break it off.
And we'll finish on this because I know you're busy. I know you've got to get going, but
I've got tanning to do. It's like 33 degrees outside today.
One of the things I've noticed so far in my talking to people who've had success and are on an upward trajectory is something that you just mentioned about having the right people on the bus. One of the things I've noticed about successful people is that they understand what their strengths are, they understand what their weaknesses are, and they surround themselves with people who can offset some of those weaknesses and allow you as someone who's in charge of staff or working with people to learn from them while they learn from you, but at the same time empowering them to grow into the best version of themselves. And ultimately, the people who have success, they allow those people to connect dots for them. And then instead of taking credit for all that success, you know, of a business's success, they're really happy to say, oh, well, no, like, you know, I just put the team together. These are the people that actually delivered the work. And that's one thing I've noticed about successful athletes is they try and figure out how their strengths fit within a team and how they can contribute to the team. I've found it with media members already. I've found it just with what you're saying. So in coaching, for me in particular, I got given a head coaching job as a 28-year-old. Some of the players I was coaching were older than me. So I decided that I knew what the gaps in my knowledge were. So I put two individuals around me who, probably one of them in particular is a better coach than I am. But so I put those guys around me because they lifted me up. They made me look really good because I just allowed them to do their thing and I focused on the stuff that I was good at. Now that doesn't mean that I didn't have to challenge myself and do some things that I wasn't uncomfortable with. Particularly the ringing up players and saying, "Oh, you haven't been selected this week, or you've been cut." That's really draining for me. But so far, the common thread that I've found with people who have success is they are happy to admit they have strengths and weaknesses, and they want to work on them. They want to learn, and they want to employ and work with people who challenge them to be better.
Absolutely. Being vulnerable, being honest with yourself and not trying to be everything to everyone, you know, and admitting. It's actually amazing when you tell someone that you can't do something, they're like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, so I didn't have to pretend that I knew how to do that. Oh, cool. They'll find someone else to do it.
But I think that's how you grow, being able to look at yourself in the mirror and understanding, one, what your strengths and weaknesses are, but taking responsibility for whatever the reason is you're looking at yourself in the mirror. You found yourself in a situation, whether it be good or bad, and accepting your role and your responsibility within that situation. You know, it might be as part of a team or it might be with yourself. One thing I've noticed with people who don't have success is that everything is everyone else's fault.
I hate that. The blame game.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I see it coming from a mile away. The blame game, people who blame and people who assumptive close. I really get excited about that. Ben tried to assumptive close me on it something earlier in the car on the way here. I go, that was an assumptive close.
Yeah.
I know what you're doing. But the blame game. Oh, absolutely. When you're only responsible for yourself. So.
Yeah. And ultimately, if you really, really want to be better, you just have to admit that you don't know everything, and you have to try and forge relationships with people who are willing to invest time in your development, and hopefully they learn something from you in the process too.
And it's amazing once you start to open those conversations and have those conversations, you know, people are interested. People generally want, people in business, and I think in our industry, generally want to collaborate and help. You know, that paying it forward mentality that we spoke about, you know, Yeah.
And on that, I think we'll finish up there, Katey. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming into the Covered Studios.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really cool up here. If anyone gets invited to a podcast, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It's all legit.
Yeah, well, we try and get people in the studio where we can, but, you know, with COVID, we had to shift to a new platform, Riverside, which provides us with high-quality audio and video solutions remotely.
Did you just plug a business?
I did.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what podcasts are for,
so
right?
if you want to start your podcast and you want to sign up to Riverside, head to riverside.com and enter the code THECOVERAU to get 10% off your purchase.
I'm going to do that.
Boom. Thanks again, Katey.
Thanks, Liam.
Well, there you have it. That was my conversation with Katey Johnston from 180 Degrees Marketing. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Took some stuff from that. As I said, she's a highly successful, highly driven person and really innovative, and was running her agency that way well before COVID hit. So for her, it was just like, yeah, cool, yeah, business as usual. So really want to thank you, Katey, for coming in to the studio. My first guest on this podcast in person, which is a little bit different for me, having not had any face-to-face social interaction with anyone for a while. That's not true, but anyway, thank you to the cover for doing this, allowing us to have all this equipment and cool shit to produce this podcast. Make sure you head across to thecover.com.au. That's where all of the content is centralized. You've got the Daily Dribble podcast on there. Tobias Canning has a column. I do a column. There's plenty happening there. Head to the social media channels. At the moment, the handle is at the cover with an AU at the end. At the cover AU. I think that's changing at some point. I'm not sure, but that's sort of where it is at the moment. So give it a follow, particularly on Instagram. That's sort of where we are most active. Head over to the Give 'em Liam Instagram page, where there are some other bits and pieces on there that I think you'll enjoy. Picked another Super Rugby team of the week, so check that out. And if you think you can do what I do, if you think you can podcast, even if you can't, even if you think you can't, even if you want to, I implore you to hit, when they put it up, the Riverside tile on the website, because it will change your life. And it also has applications for your business. If you're running seminars, if you're running meetings, don't want to pay for Zoom, this is a much better platform. I'm recording on it right now. Record most of my podcasts on it. Great for remote broadcasts, live streaming, gaming. Gamers use it quite extensively. So if you want to get it, get it. If you want to get a podcast started, get it. Because we get a cut. All right. Thanks again to the cover. Thanks again to Riverside. Thanks again to Katey. And I will be back next week with another interesting guest from another content creator. So that'll be interesting. So stay tuned. See you next week. Have a good week. Go Wallabies.